When most investors think about great long term businesses, tobacco usually is not the first industry that comes to mind. But despite decades of controversy, one company kept generating enormous amounts of cash flow. Lawsuits, regulations, declining smoking rates. Most people assumed companies like Altria would eventually disappear. And yet, Altria became one of the most powerful dividend paying stocks in market history, a controversial business that quietly built massive wealth for shareholders. For many investors, Altria is not about excitement, it's about income. Quarter after quarter, the company continues sending cash back to shareholders. And over long periods of time, those dividends can compound aggressively, reinvested shares producing more dividends, which buy even more shares later on. That's why high yield investing becomes so psychologically powerful, because eventually, the income starts feeling real. Of course, there's a reason many investors avoid the stock completely. Altria operates in one of the most heavily regulated industries on Earth. Smoking rates have been declining for years. Public opinions continues shifting. Government pressure continues increasing. And that creates long-term uncertainty around the business. Which is why investors constantly debate the same question. Is Altria an income machine or a dividend trap slowly running out of time? High yield investing always creates emotional tensions because investors know the income looks attractive, but they also know the risks are real. Some companies pay massive dividends right before collapsing, which is why experienced investors focus heavily on cash flow, not just yield. And interestingly, many institutional investors still hold companies like Altria for one simple reason: reliable income. Altria understands the traditional cigarette business cannot stay the same forever. That's why the company has invested heavily into smoke free alternatives and nicotine products. The challenge is enormous. Replacing one of the most profitable consumer businesses in history isn't easy. And ultimately, investors are betting that Altria can adapt fast enough to keep the cash flow engine alive. Altria reveals something uncomfortable about investing. The stock market doesn't reward popularity, it rewards cash flow. And over long periods of time, consistent dividends combined with compounding can create enormous wealth. Whether investors love or hate the business, Altria became one of the most important income stocks of the modern era. A reminder that in markets, the most controversial companies are sometimes the most profitable. Follow if you want to get paid, not trade.